Welcome to New Release Review, part of the Movie Friends podcast. My name is Michelle, and today we are talking about Beetlejuice Beetlejuice from 2024, directed by Tim Burton. This episode will not be spoiler-free, so if you haven't seen the movie, please go watch it and come back and listen. You've been warned. My guest today is writer and podcaster Kat Chinetti. She is the co-host of We Should Do This Again Sometime with Kat and Mark. Before we get started, I just have to compliment your glasses. I'm
thank
obsessed. Oh my gosh, they're amazing.
Thank you. I have had the same glasses for like almost 10 years before this. So for my birthday, my mom took me shopping for a new set. I don't know if you can tell in this light, but they're black and turn purple at the bottom. And they also have
I'm
this
noticing
pretty
that.
sick, like herringbone pattern on the side.
I'm like very transfixed on your glasses right now. So if you find me just like dozing off into your eyes, it's like, wow, look at those glasses.
I call them my cool art teacher glasses. So
what were your glasses before?
They were very similar to yours, just black. They were like very kind of, I was going for like a very kind of Peggy Carter, like that very classic look. And now I've turned myself into Doc Ock from Into the Spider-Verse, and that's fine.
Well, the shape looks lovely on you.
Thank you.
So.
I have a different pair as well that are blue light blockers, and they're blue, and then they have like a nude illusion in them, so they look like they're floating.
Oh.
Now that we're internet friends, I'll send you a picture.
I'm telling you, Kat, I was telling Seth, I was like, I'm so excited to talk to you and meet you, but I feel like I was going on a blind date.
I mean, I am not a stranger to blind podcasting dates. That's how our podcast started.
Is it? Is that true?
Yeah. So Kellen, who's been on our show, and Eric, who's also been on our show, are two of our mutual friends.
Okay.
And they were like, hey, Catherine, you like movies. Our friend Mark, also big into movies. So they both sent us a Zoom link and like left us alone in the room.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And now I think we're like 100-something episodes in.
Wow. Have you guys met in person?
Yeah, so he lives in San Antonio, but he's come up to visit twice.
Okay.
And one time we actually met up with Seth as well, which was really fun.
I love it.
And then in a very Seth move, I went to the bathroom, and then he like really stealthily paid the check while we were gone.
That is such a Seth move. Yes.
And we were like, hello? He also like brought us a big bag of chocolate, and again we were like, hello? It was like the hottest day of the year, and he just like whipped out like cool, beautiful chocolate, and we're like, I don't know how you did this. And I'm scared, but
yeah,
excited.
Yeah, that's the magic of Seth. That is such a Sethy move. Yeah. All right. Well, I am super excited to have you to join me to discuss all things Beetlejuice. I want to start off with asking, when did you see the first one? Did you grow up with this movie? Is this like a movie you rewatch all the time?
So this is actually a really weird story, but I grew up watching the animated show.
Okay, which is great. Love it.
It is great, but I didn't see the movie until I think I was like 19.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, he's not just like a fun little guy. He's kind of, I wasn't like mad, but I was just like, this is a bold departure from what I consider the source material.
Yeah.
And then, but like the other kind of characters are such a strong element of the first Beetlejuice. Like the family dynamic, I think, is really strong. It is almost impossible not to fall in love with the Maitlands.
Totally.
Minus the fact one of them's now killed a man.
Ooh.
Upsetting how hot Alec Baldwin is in that movie.
Oh my
right?
gosh.
That's not just a me take.
That's a me take as well. And I think my husband felt the same way. I mean, he's just a babe. We can't deny it.
They're just like such a beautiful couple.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it is, but it's like only like 1 degree past realistic. You know what I mean? Like it's very relatably beautiful. Like you may have seen this couple before, like in your travels, and you wouldn't be like, oh, those are movie star people. which I also think is part of what really adds to this, right? Like it creates a very real feeling world, which then makes the afterworld, or after whatever they call it, so like also of a piece with that. Like, even though it's totally inverted to what we're expecting, it still feels of a piece with this, like, very similar to our world. And as a costume person and a makeup person and a, like, macabre design person, like, obviously this tickles my brain immediately. And then I, like, totally fell in with the Beetlejuice the Musical hive. Like, I saw that show 3 times.
I've always wanted to see it.
So it is a perfect, I think, centerpiece between the animated show and the movie.
Okay.
Where, like, he's a little bit of a perv, but he's not as pervy with Lydia as he is with the Maitland. Like, it's a little more
appropriate, maybe.
And, like, when he's trying to get her to marry him, he's like, it's a green card thing. Like, it's much more about that than, like, the weird ownership dynamic. But it's still got, like, the creepy little guy who's like, we're now here, and, like, it's a lot of fun skeletons and puppets and whatever. So I was like, I'm very into the vibe of Beetlejuice.
Yes.
I'm a big, like, that is kind of, if you were to look at a picture of a bunch of my friends, you'd probably be like, yeah.
This makes sense.
Like, I can see where all this came from.
Yeah. So once you saw the movie, did you rewatch it a bunch of times?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
The Brattle Theater, which is a theater in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Holler to the Brattle. They're wonderful. They're a rep theater. They did a 100 Years of Warner Brothers retrospective at the beginning of this year, which means, like, January 3rd, I was seeing Beetlejuice in theaters. Wow. Whenever it's around, I make a point to try to go because I just think it is such a fun, joyful thing. And I also realized that quite a lot of my friends were like me, where they had seen the animated thing, but they were, like, afraid of the movie. Like, I was afraid of it growing up. I saw Michael Keaton as a little kid and I was like,
Sure.
And then, like, subsequently, I've, like, been him for Halloween twice since then.
Do you have pictures of that? Because I would love to see that.
I sure do.
I would
Let me see if
love
I can
to
pull
see
one up
that.
for you.
While you're pulling it up, it's funny because I've seen this as a kid. I've rewatched it a bunch of times. I love it. Like you, I love it's whimsical and it's fun. And I love the way we talk about death. And it makes me question a lot of things. My husband, who I've been together with him for 15 years, has never seen this movie up until last Friday. Because I bought tickets to the second one and he was like, I've never seen the first one. I'm like, that's impossible. I've watched it with you in the house. So we watched it and he loved it. And then we went and saw the second one together. So I'm, like, really proud. Really proud.
The first one is so charming.
It is.
Like, the delivery of, like, no feet. Like, just an iconic line. This is the...
Oh my gosh, listeners. Kat is showing a picture of her.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh my God, I love
That's
it.
my horrible bathroom in the background that I just tinted green.
Hey, it works.
That no one would notice how messy it was.
It looks great. It looks great.
Yeah, I've done a couple variations on that. I've worn costumes like that to see the musical. I usually dress as Lydia, though, because it's easier to pack and doesn't involve a wig. But yeah, no, I mean, once the movie, it kind of captures your imagination in a way that I think is really special.
Yeah.
And I think the musical does a really good job with that too. And my only, like, this isn't even a problem. I have a couple problems with Beetlejuice, I'll be honest with you. But the narrative thrust of the Lydia Astrid relationship is almost directly lifted from the musical.
Oh.
And it's one of the narrative thrusts that I think really works in the musical. In this case, it's Lydia and her mom has died, and she spends almost the entire musical trying to find a way to relate to her dead mom and find her dead mom again. And that's kind of her driving mission in the musical. So Astrid having that with her dad, like, that really worked for me, even though it's almost directly lifted from the musical.
Yeah, so Beetlejuice was written by the two guys who did Wednesday and working obviously with Tim Burton. The writers of the musical, do you know anything about them?
So I believe that this was one of those things, and there's a great video by the YouTube channel Wait in the Wings, which I highly recommend if you're interested in musical history.
Yeah.
He has, like, become the unofficial, like, Beetlejuice the musical historian in like the way that sometimes that just happens on the internet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I believe that it was started because Warner Brothers was like, we have stuff. We should do musicals like Disney. And they're doing a Lost Boys musical. And I will just tell you that I am overjoyed about this development. And I will be there at least once, probably a couple of times, opening summer. And yeah, don't come at me with that shit. I will win. But so it was kind of started as almost a in-house project. I don't think it was movie people. I don't remember any of their names. I should have brought my book with me. But they did like an out-of-town tryout, and it was really dark and really gross. And everyone was like, "Whoa,
yeah."
And then they kept rejiggering it and rejiggering it and rejiggering it. And it like found this really weird, like Gen Z TikTok-y cult following.
Okay.
Which is weird because a lot of them hadn't seen the movie.
Yeah, it's so weird.
But it's also like Alex Brightman is incredibly charming. He does a great job. Apparently he has a cameo appearance in Beetlejuice Beetlejuice, but I'll be honest, I was watching it at like 11 o'clock at night on a Sunday, and I was jet lagged as all hell. So I have no idea where he is in the movie, but I believe that he's in there. He plays Beetlejuice in the musical. And it's much more about like Lydia's interiority, her relationship with her mom. They changed Delia into a life coach who's like also sleeping with the father, but she's like meant to be like helping with their grief and like feng shui and shit. And then they're like also fucking, and that's like much more interesting, I think.
Yeah.
But also it's very different. And like in the opening song, Beetlejuice literally goes, wow, how Lydia has like a very sad ballad. And he goes, how sad. And what a bold departure from the source material.
Nice.
And like that's the cadence of the whole show.
Nice. Okay, so it sounds fun. It sounds fun.
It is. But I also think that they made Beetlejuice in Beetlejuice Beetlejuice more of that Beetlejuice, which makes him feel not quite of a piece with the Beetlejuice of the film. Specifically in those fourth wall breaks where he turns into the camera and says things, which I didn't love. That feels very Beetlejuice the musical. And then someone went, oh, we could use that. Versus like a organic Beetlejuice Michael Keaton.
Yeah, I love this perspective because I would have never thought that since I haven't seen the musical. So I'm like very interested in this comparison.
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of the stuff that they did was really good. I loved the new like makeup design they did. I do wish we had like seen Miss Argentina or someone we knew.
Yeah.
Like, I know that's kind of a nitpick, but I was like, where are my friends? Where's the guy who got hit by the car? Like, I'm aware that we can't. Where are the football players?
Oh, I know. I mean, we get the shrinkers, right? We get more of them.
Yeah, but we also don't know. None of them are in the outfit from the first one. So for all we know, they're just different guys.
Right.
You know, where are a couple of the recognizables?
Yeah.
Even if they were just in the waiting room or the background of a scene, or you could see Miss Argentina in the back, like on a different window or whatever. I just spent a lot of time going, wait, where are my friends?
I agree. And because we watched the first one Friday night and saw the second one Saturday night, it was very fresh. And so I was also looking for those things. I'm curious, how do you think about how they handled Charles?
I knew they were going to have to do something.
Because Jeffrey Jones, you know.
Yeah. In my review, I was like, if you've ever Googled him, you knew something had to be somethinging.
Yes.
I couldn't stop laughing. I thought it was so off color and a very Tim Burton feeling joke.
Did you read?
Read
that it was that his whole sequence of the plane crash and then a shark attack is a dream that Tim has? It's like a nightmare.
I did not know that. But that also feels. So I have a pet theory that, and this is one that actually I'm stealing almost wholesale from my boyfriend Greg. Shout out to Greg.
Hey, Greg.
Semi-regular on my podcast. But I totally agree with him, where he's like, Big Fish is the last movie where Tim Burton was really, really personal. And ever since then, he's been afraid of putting himself into projects because Big Fish was widely rejected by critics. But as a weird musical theater person, I will say Big Fish the musical, one of my favorite musicals of all time, cried the entire second act. It's beautiful. And it's a lovely combination of the book and the film with some other unique elements thrown in. It's good. But anyway, I think ever since then, Tim Burton has very much kept stuff close to the vest.
Yeah.
He's been adapting other people's work. It's been like the Tim Burton aesthetic kind of slapped on an existing thing. And so that doesn't surprise me, because it seems like with Beetlejuice, he was much more much more willing to put himself back in again.
Yeah, and I read that he just seemed more playful on set and he became more alive.
Yeah.
And Jenna Ortega spoke to this, that she just had a joy watching him and felt like he really put himself into this, which makes me happy.
Especially because she was not super nice about him on Wednesday. I don't know if you heard any of that press stuff.
No, I didn't.
Where she was like, the dance sequence that she did, he just like told her to do it and provided no guidance.
Ooh.
And like, she was like,
yeah.
You know, I think she felt very detached from him in a way. And some of that might also be the studio streaming system.
Totally.
I'm not blaming him entirely for this. And also, you know, time has passed between those two projects. I have no idea how much more comfortable she is advocating for herself. Like, there's so many things that could change in that window of time.
Yeah.
But it's nice to hear from the Wednesday, like, very kind of regimented, oh, I like it when you don't blink, so just don't blink. Her, what? Him, yep. But like, kind of to him having a little more fun with it, I think is very good. That said, I thought the Charles joke was just the right amount of distasteful.
Yes, I agree.
And I thought it was hilarious that they kept cutting to it. Because I thought we'd maybe get like that, like the dream sequence, and then we'd see him like sit down in the waiting room, and that would be like it. I loved watching him, like, at one point he like just kind of casually like shoulders a pole. Yeah. And I was like, yes.
And like we use him until the end. I mean, so much so Delia is off to find him.
Yeah. I also, though, I think it's very funny because I think that a lot of the comedy in this movie is not the comedy they wrote into this movie.
Okay.
Like, we're able to talk spoilers on this here.
Oh, this is filled with spoilers. Yes, please.
Cool. So, when Delia gets bit by the asps, and it's just so quick, like, they've built it up to this whole, like, I'm going to do this ceremony, and it's going to be beautiful, and then she, like, opens the basket, and it's just like, bam! Dying. I thought it was so funny. I was just like, oh my god. And like, clearly they didn't, I don't think it was meant to be that funny. I think they just were like, oh, we're running out of time and we still have to film the entire dance sequence.
Yeah.
But like, instead they just wham.
I know.
Like,
I just love Catherine O'Hara too. So
she's so wonderful.
So wonderful. How do you feel about the direction and the story of killing her?
I'm bummed.
Yeah.
But like, I also kind of get it. They had to.
Right.
In a way.
Right.
Like, I get it. I like that she is not that different looking as a ghost. I think that's a very funny choice also.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
Her getting just sprayed with Charles's blood was so funny. Like, but also, I'll be honest, as soon as I saw the, like, Soul Train, which Vicar and I feel like Tim Burton's like, see, I have black friends, and it's like,
yeah.
But like, as soon as they kind of introduced that like Studio 54 kind of vibe, I was like, oh, I know what's gonna happen here, because who belongs in the Studio 54 vibe more than Delia Deetz?
Right.
The answer is nobody.
Right. Yeah. And her and Charles just right away going on to the beyond.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting. But I'm viewing this as,
I feel
fun,
like,
but I'm not going to pick it too much apart. Yeah.
No, and I also feel like it's kind of implied that like Delia has seen that Lydia and Astrid are okay.
Right. True.
And like her art is going to go up in value, and she's with her husband, and, you know, assuming Otho is there somewhere, and, you know, like all the people from her circle that we don't see anymore are there. You know, one could also, I'm sure, and people probably will, pick apart how many of her friends probably were lost in the AIDS crisis, if we want to get like real metatextual about it. There was not much holding her by the end of the film there.
Yeah, it's a good point.
And it's a bummer, because it means that she's probably not going to be in the threequel, which they leave so wide open for.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But, and it's already made more than its budget. So we will probably be getting that threequel, whether Tim wants to or not.
I know. I was reading an article on how he kind of like poked fun at that question of just like, it took 35 years to make this one. And by the time another 30 plus years goes by, I'll be, 100 or whatever. He's like, so
Yeah.
anything's possible, but probably not. But also I could see it happening. Like, but also let's not. Let's not.
Yeah.
Let's not.
I also kind of circling back to, I feel like Tim Burton was being like authentic in a way we've never really seen before in a movie.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this is the first time he's like ever actually shot like a sequence that is actually erotic, which is Monica Bellucci stapling herself together.
Yeah.
I feel like there have been a lot of what I would describe as like longing shots in his films before, of his like little waif girls with their big eyes, or even some like kind of like Dark Shadows is outright kind of slutty. I don't much care for that movie, but I took my mom to see it for Mother's Day, when it came out, and she was like, that was terrible. And then it was like every time I turned a corner in my house, it was on cable for some reason.
It followed you.
So I've seen that movie more times than I think anyone else.
That's really funny.
But it's like, that one's like, he doesn't know. He's either doing that like longing waif thing, that he does for like Lisa Marie or even like Miss Argentina a little bit, or it's kind of weird and horny like Dark Shadows, which does not feel like him at all. And this is the first time where I'm like, oh, like this is what like he like this is erotic and sensual and weird and beautiful and like respectfully horny, I guess is how I would describe it.
Yeah. How did you feel about introducing Dolores as Beetlejuice's ex-wife?
I could watch that scene of like her stapling herself together and then that black and white scene that is like the Spanish Impressionist film.
It was great.
For hours.
Yeah.
And some of that is just because I think Monica Bellucci is probably the most beautiful woman in the world.
Yeah.
Like, probably.
Yeah.
It's also wonderful to see, like, a woman above the age of 30, like, given this much romantic and sexual gravitas.
Totally. Yes.
Like,
agreed.
It is thumbs up from me. But also just, like, I love the idea of Beetlejuice being such a dumbass that he marries into a death cult and then is just like, shit, and like panics, murders his wife, and still dies. Like,
it is funny. Yeah.
That is like kind of the exact level of like, and it also kind of tracks with his like, in the first movie, he's like, I always said I was going to do it right. And like, he just doesn't.
Right.
Because of course he doesn't.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Like it just creates such an interesting tapestry of like what a piece of shit this man is, which I know is like is a stupid thing to love, but I love it.
No, I think that is why we love him in this weird way.
And also just like, I'm sorry, he really thought a woman that looked like that would just like be into him for non-sacrifice reasons.
Right. We're blinded by love.
Like
Yeah.
If Monica Bellucci looked at me for more than 2 seconds, I would be like, oh, I'm getting murdered for the cult and it's going to be great. Like,
I'm hearing it's worth it. Yeah.
Hell yeah, brother. Like, his inability to know his lane, even just like as a guy, is really funny to me.
Yeah.
Like, before he's like a demon man, he's just like, oh yeah, she's totally into me. And I'm like, oh, dude. Dude.
What did you think about Justin Theroux playing Rory, who plays Lydia's love interest / producer?
I feel like they needed an Otho type, but they didn't want to do Otho again.
Right. Yeah. And
I thought he did fine with it. But also, so my biggest problem with this movie is I feel like there's too much stuff.
Oh, okay. Yeah, expand on that. I want to hear.
I feel like there clearly at some point were two different scripts, either for Beetlejuice Beetlejuice and then Beetlejuice Beetlejuice Beetlejuice, or just two different takes. And then they kind of got shuffled together into a slightly overstuffed hour 45-minute movie. And I feel like he is a fine piece of this. I like his performance. I'm not mad at him. Nothing. All the performances in this, I think, are really good. The actors are not the people I'm mad at. I just kind of wanted to take the writers and shake them a little bit.
Sure.
He's really funny. He's really good. I like when he's like just trying to self-gaslight. I think that's very funny. I just like, he is so at 11 from the jump.
Yeah.
That when he gets the truth serum, I was just like, oh, Jesus. All right, we're doing it, I guess.
Yeah.
And I was not sure what was happening there. Like,
yeah.
It just seemed like he started too high and stayed too high. And then, and that's not his fault necessarily. Like, I think he had to be over the top.
Yeah.
But when Delia is rolling her eyes at you from the jump, I'm like, dude.
Right. What else did you find was too much?
I just feel like they kept introducing new ideas, like kind of rapid fire. So there was the show, her drug addiction, which was just like mentioned a lot, but they never do anything about, like,
right. We see like the pills in the beginning. Yeah,
she's addicted to drugs.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
whatever. The fact that she can't see the dad, which is like a problem, and he's like, I'm around. I know you can't see me. And I'm like, wait, okay, so why? Whoa. Like, there's a lot of like lore pieces that are just like said, and then we never learn about more, which is just
right.
If there are rules now, which I guess there are,
right,
then what's going on with that, please?
Yeah, that was one of my questions for you, was the fact that Lydia can't see Astrid's dad, but Astrid's dad has been spying on them. But then how wouldn't she see that?
I guess.
Yeah. And we lightly touch upon, and then we move on. It's just.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel like that scene probably could have been 5 minutes longer.
Yes, agreed.
And we probably could have cut some of the, like, her being addicted to drugs, for example.
Yeah.
We could have cut that, and that would have, we could have gotten more payoff there.
Yeah.
Or even just some of the like, Rory giving the candy to the kids and then the head scares, which was a funny scene. I liked watching them ride the bikes through the downtown later. I thought that was very silly. But, like, okay.
Yeah.
And then also I'm like, all right, so how does Dolores work? Like, I'm thrilled she's here, don't get me wrong, but, like, how does this work?
Right.
And then at the end, they're eaten by the sandworm, but they're, like, definitely not dead.
Right.
Like,
they're just, like, taken away for a little bit.
Yeah, so I'm like, cool. So when they come back next week, what's the plan? Like,
right.
And this is what I mean. Like, I feel like there are just a lot of half-baked ideas.
Yeah.
And I feel like the problem is, like, the emotional core of this movie is really good.
Yeah.
My mom can see ghosts, but she can't see my dad, and I think she's lying to me about it, and I'm pissed. And then her realizing, I can see ghosts, I can't see my dad, I'm gonna go find out why, to me is much more, like, I also did like Jeremy. I think he was very good.
Did you think he was a ghost?
As soon as I was like, they did mention the 90s a lot in one sentence.
Yeah. I didn't catch on to that until they were floating.
I was like, either he's just the worst because he's horrible, pretentious hipster trash.
Yeah.
Or he's the worst because he's a ghost. And then they were like, oh, he's a serial killer. And I was like, oh, God, no, we don't need that. That's a hat on a hat. Just make him a teenager who wants to be alive again.
Right.
That is, like, a totally believable. And, like, Astrid is opened up to him right away, so it makes sense. And she can see him, and, like, he's able to exploit that because he's a shithead kid. He doesn't need to be a murderer on top of that.
Yeah, not necessary.
Yeah, and it also just makes again, it's just one of those things where I'm like, okay, the 5 minutes spent explaining this could have been used to give us more information about Dolores, give us more information about the dad. I think they honestly just wanted to do the cutaway gag of like the mom with the egg beater in her head.
Yeah, right.
Which wouldn't have killed her.
Right. Right. Yeah. Good point.
It's a very funny joke, but I was like, oh.
Yeah, we could have spent it elsewhere.
Yeah, and I feel like they just were, it's 36 years of ideas.
Yeah.
Thrown in a bottle rocket and shaken.
Yeah.
And then they're like, why didn't it take off exactly the way we thought? Oh, well, probably because these Mentos are 36 years old, and so is this Coke.
Yeah, right, right.
And like I said, I think some of the jokes are good. I think the Soul Train joke is funny, not because it's funny, but because it's insane a studio let him put that in a movie in 2024.
Yeah, and we show it multiple times.
Yeah, I do think it's very funny. I thought the MacArthur Park inclusion.
Yeah, so what do you think of that?
I don't fucking know, but I liked it.
I know, right. I mean, I do like that we got Deo back. We have a lot of callbacks to the original.
I am grateful that the sad Deo they used in the trailer was in the film.
Yeah.
Because I'm so tired of Legacy-quels, like, being like, the, like, sad Lana Del Rey Once Upon a Dream, and then it's not in the movie, and you're just like, oh.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
I also thought it was really funny that his gravestone looked like a shark fin.
Yeah. I know. It's like etched glass.
I will be laughing about that for a while, I think.
That was pretty
But, like,
good.
that's what I mean, where I'm like, I don't know if that was an on-purpose joke.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you like the because another new character we get is Wilem Dafoe's, he's like a B movie star now turned detective.
Six seasons in a movie.
Right.
So give that man a television show right now. Like, he is having so much fun. Put it on whatever. Where does Warner Brothers stream now? I don't even know. Is it Max?
I think it's Max. Yeah.
Yeah. Give that man like a Max show.
Yeah.
Where he's just like, I'm in. I'm there.
That would be
I love
good.
the assistant with the javelin in her neck.
Oh,
I love the woman with the bullet hole in her head always bringing him coffee that he then just throws. Like,
it's great.
But also, where the fuck did he come from?
Well, right. Like, we're introducing all these characters, but like, yes, I want more of him, and I love the idea of like, this is like now a spinoff series.
I want more of him, but also, where are my friends?
Right. I know. Yeah.
Like, it's such an interesting dynamic, right? Because it's also clear that, someone, I don't know if it's Tim Burton or someone in Warner Brothers is like, oh, we could get this person, and we could get this person, and we could get this person, and it kind of feels like, oh, we can get all this amazing talent. Oh, crumbs, where are we going to put them?
Right.
We've got to make sure they all have their own moments to, like, shine. Like, the priest had a lot of screen time for a guy who adds nothing.
I know. Right.
And although I will just say, I really thought they were gonna like have him like pee himself and like make that into a joke in that like very like juvenile kind of, Bill Paxton in True Lies kind of way. Really grateful that didn't happen, because I was like, no.
Yeah.
I felt like it was like, like Chekhov's pants pissing. I was just waiting for it to happen.
I did enjoy seeing Danny DeVito. I enjoyed that, as the janitor.
That was like the perfect amount of stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Paul Rubens in Batman Returns, right? Where he's only in it for a minute at the beginning, but if you know who it is, you're like, hey!
And it serves a purpose.
Like,
it leads to Dolores, right? So
yeah, exactly. Like, that to me was like a perfect amount of bit.
Yes.
And I feel like they probably could have done that with the like woman who was taking the numbers in the afterlife.
Right. Yeah.
Like, that could have been a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like there were simultaneously too many bits and too much bit potential.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I also feel like it's always hard for me to watch a movie where I can see a better movie in it.
Oh. Yeah.
Because I feel like there's a like Mr. and Mrs. Smith almost style like but stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Dolores and Beetlejuice,
Mm-hmm.
like slutty drama movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also like, which is a comedy, but it's making fun of that.
Yeah.
And then there's also like this kind of actual really emotional family drama that's happening with Astrid and Lydia that could also be its own movie.
Yeah. Right. Right.
And so there are like two, and I'm not saying they couldn't marry together, but then you'd need to kind of shake out all that other crap.
Yeah. Skim the fat.
You know, make it so Astrid calls Beetlejuice to see her dad, and that becomes maybe not a kidnapping situation, but maybe it's a similar deal. Or she goes to the afterlife as a living person and goes to jail, and Lydia has to go save her, and like,
and that would have worked just fine.
So then,
that would have worked.
Yeah, then Beetlejuice is playing both sides of the field, right? He got Astrid stuck, but he's also willing to help Lydia help her.
Right.
You know, for marriage contract, right. And Dolores is coming after them.
Right.
Maybe some of the people they meet along the way we see starting to get shriveled up. I know that's a little bit more of a straightforward plot, but like it is, we might have benefited from that.
And it's not so convoluted, and we're not like just using things to use them. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then maybe the sequel becomes Astrid meets a boy, and it's that whole dynamic, because that to me feels like it could have been a whole other movie.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially if we make it so she still doesn't know that she can see ghosts in the real world, because Beetlejuice is canonically able to be seen by humans because he is a demon.
Right.
So like that could make sense. Right.
Right.
And then like we still have the Charles cutaway jokes. Maybe we save Delia's death.
Right. Stretch it a little bit.
You know, mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like there's just too many ideas, and they're all good. And I feel like they're like, when are we going to get to do this movie again? Like, and so it just, I hate to say it, but I'm going to say it because I do feel like this is the most personal we've gotten with Tim Burton in a while.
Yeah.
And it sucks that he seems so desperate.
Yeah.
I really like Tim Burton, and this is not me coming for him.
Yeah.
I'm aware some of this is probably also studio stuff. I'm aware that some of this is also, you know, balancing 30 plus years of expectations. I'm sure Keaton came in with a take. I'm sure Winona came in with a take. I'm sure everybody came in with their, you know, the last 36 years worth of thoughts about this.
Yep.
The way I described it in the review I wrote was like, it feels like drinking out of a fire hose, but at least it's like an immaculately themed fire hose that you can tell someone loved making. But it also kind of feels like a snow globe where there's so much glitter you can't see the scene inside.
Yeah.
You know, like it is the most Tim Burton it's ever been, while also being the least Tim Burton it's ever been.
Yeah. And
it smacks of this desperation of like, this is all I'm going to show you of myself. Please love me. Which is like a very Beetlejuice move, I guess.
Yes. Yes. Over the top, a lot jam-packed.
That doesn't necessarily make it a good movie. The other thing is like, I don't know, he's in like what, 25 minutes of the original?
Uh-huh.
Like total?
Yeah.
And in this, there are a lot of scenes where he's just like by himself.
Yeah.
Which is not why we think Beetlejuice is interesting. I think it's really funny that his cosmic punishment is running a call center. But like, I wish he liked it less.
Right. He seems like pretty settled in what it is.
Yeah, he's like happy. The only thing he doesn't have is Lydia. And I do think it's a really smart choice, by the way, that they make that his fixation.
Yeah.
Not like young girls.
Right. It's just Lydia.
It happens to be her.
Yeah. And we're still into her. We're still into her as she's an adult.
And he sees her as an adult and is still like, who? Which is the correct response, by the way.
Yes.
When she like does her little horror hosting thing, which I think is such a funny idea for like, she's clearly gone through this PTSD and this man has just pushed her to like exploit it for everything she can. And I like that idea, by the way, of her like seeing him everywhere.
Totally.
That's really interesting.
Like being haunted. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I probably would have liked it more if the movie was about that.
Yeah.
She's being haunted by him. He's being haunted by Dolores. Maybe for some reason he comes to her for help for a change.
Yeah. Ooh. That would have been interesting.
It tried so hard to be more, but the same. And then somehow it just wound up being kind of less engaging as a side effect of that.
Yeah. On that note, I want to talk about the ending with you. And so we get this montage of the future. Lydia and Astrid are traveling outside Dracula's castle.
Which they said they were going to do with the dad, so that's cute.
Right. Astrid gets married to maybe vampire and then gives birth to a baby Beetlejuice. Turns out it's Lydia's nightmare, I guess. And she wakes up next to Beetlejuice, but then wakes up again. So what do you think? What do you think about this? Is there anything to think about it? Do we just leave it? Leave it be?
I think that there's a very real chance that if we do get a threequel, it is going to assume this movie never happened.
Ooh, okay.
I think there is a real chance that we get a threequel that is like a straight up the middle, that whole thing was Lydia's nightmare.
Yeah.
And we kind of almost have a like deja vu type deal where it starts on the set of Ghost House again.
Oh, okay.
And if they do that, I might like this movie better. If they are committing to like, it was insane because this was a dream.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, if we want to get really fucking dark with it, pardon my language, we make it like this is her Birdman death dream and she died in that bathroom.
Right.
Like she overdosed on drugs and none of this happened.
Yep.
And this is her like crazy, you know, like the Emma Stone flying out the window in Birdman is this.
Right. Would they go that dark though? I don't know.
I think if Tim Burton were left to his druthers and just like allowed to do, maybe. Yeah. But also Lydia Dietz is kind of his platonic ideal. Like, I don't know that he would do that to her.
Right.
So I also have no idea like how his brain works in that sense, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if he feels loyalty to characters or actresses or both or neither, or, you know, because if that is the case and then she's back as a dead character, maybe he'll roll with it, but maybe not. I don't know. Maybe her dying is the way that Astrid, gets her ability to see dead people.
That would be interesting.
But I don't know. I don't know that Warner Brothers would allow that.
Yeah. Did you like the ending though?
Yeah, I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, I laughed too.
I don't know if they did it on purpose to be that funny.
Yeah.
But like her waking up next to him, I was like, it's going to be hilarious if that's where they cut it.
Right.
I was really hoping that was like, she wakes up, she puts her hand over, he like pulls up an eye mask and sits up. And it's just like, what a week, huh, babe?
Yeah.
And then it's just like cuts to her screaming and Beetlejuice 2024 AD.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then also like her waking up again, also very funny.
Yeah.
Like I really.
Yeah.
As soon as they introduced the baby Beetlejuice puppet, I was like, he's going to be in the after credits or something. Like, that is a fully autonomous animatronic they made.
Yeah.
He's not CGI, and you can tell, which I love.
Totally. Yes. Love it.
I felt like the sandworms were definitely sculpted at some point and then CGI'd over. And I hate that.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, because I know this film went back to the roots in terms of like using a lot of practical effects and animatronics and puppets. But I wasn't sure what we maybe used a little CGI on. Maybe it was
I feel like the sandworms definitely got a little zhuzh.
Yeah.
I don't know if they...
Smoothing.
Like, yeah, because do you remember when Jurassic World came out and they were like, actually, we did have animatronics? Like, everything was animatronics. And then we just airbrushed over it. And we were all yeah, we know you airbrushed over it.
Yeah.
It felt a little bit like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But as soon as I saw this baby, I'm like, first of all, coming soon to Spirit Halloween. Like, we all know that this is going to be like
everywhere.
Right? Like every one of your like hot goth friends is going to have one now. Right. Like there's going to be one under a laundry basket with a stick propping it up, like looking for big titty goth GF, like with the Beetlejuice baby, like under the laundry basket, you know?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But also I was like, all right, if they just did it for this one throwaway joke, that's really dumb. Like he's gonna be back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was also like, is this the threequel? Is it about the baby?
I feel like it's just a lot to put into a threequel if we were to do that.
Two Dietzes and a baby.
Like,
I don't know.
Yeah.
Baby juice.
Baby juice.
No.
We don't. No. We can't do baby juice. No.
I said it and then I realized, although Beetlejuice babies, like Muppet babies, I'd watch that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that would be good.
Like baby Wilem Dafoe with like half a skull.
All of them could be baby versions.
Yeah.
That would be
baby Miss Argentina.
It'd be great. It would be great.
I feel like this is such a weird nitpick.
Yeah.
But like with Miss Argentina and like a couple of the other, even like the sports guys, right? Because their uniforms are kind of shiny. I felt like the afterlife was missing glitter and like sparkle in the way that it had in the first one. Like, Miss Argentina is obviously very, sparkly and beautiful. There's I know we're probably not going to have a tribal chief in the waiting room anymore, but like he had a bunch of gold jewelry and like there was still kind of a level of like misguided opulence.
Yeah.
And like some of them were just regular schmoes, and that's fine. But like there was no glamour at all in this afterlife that I could see, except for like the Soul Train, which again, I don't know how comfortable we are like with that. And it all made me feel like, hey, not to be rude, but do rich people not have to do this?
Yeah. Like
it created a bunch of weird questions that didn't exist
in
the original to me.
Yeah.
Like if the level of lore expansion had become, we found a way to help the Maitlands pass on through a loophole, and that's kind of the only new questions we opened up, I would have rolled with that.
Yeah.
But there's like, okay, so what about all of our other friends? Like, I get that Juno, the actress who played Juno, has passed on, so we couldn't necessarily have her back. But there's no reason we couldn't smack another model into some blue makeup or, like have other. So where are they?
Yeah, did they just go to the beyond? Like, yeah. Like, yeah, I know.
And now that the Soul Train is an option, that also made me go like, wait a minute, then why did anyone ever do their like indentured business if you could just like not?
Right. Yeah.
Like, I get that it's a joke on the one hand, but like, I don't know that anyone thought about how many rabbit holes that opens.
Yeah.
And like, I get that these are movies you're kind of just supposed to accept on face.
Right. Enjoy and move on.
When the face contradicts the other face, what do?
You can't help but question.
I'm happy to roll with most stuff, but the fact that in a movie that I felt was overstuffed, I had time to think about this.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
Yeah. So with this, are you recommending this? I'd love to read your review, so we'll link it. But are you?
So I gave it 3 out of 5 stars.
Okay.
Because I feel like there is a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of heart.
Yeah.
Even if it's misguided.
Yeah.
There's a lot of art, even if it's not the same art that we remember. There's a lot of good performances. And if Tim Burton is able to be a little more honest through his filmmaking, maybe we are getting some more good Burton. I also like that this is actually a comedy. I was very worried based on the trailers that this was kind of going to be like Avengers to Age of Ultron, like levels of like, now it's really serious and like this is all a metaphor for like, in Age of Ultron it's like genocide, but like in this, like this is all a metaphor for like dying of cancer or abusing drugs or whatever. Like I was like, and it wasn't that.
Yeah, no.
Honestly, one of those entire stars is for Catherine O'Hara. And like, honestly, I feel like the women carried this thing.
Oh, for sure. They had the best part.
I get that there were men, and that's fine. But like, it was kind of nice that there were so many women.
Yeah.
And sure, 3 of them were kind of like the Tim Burton. Like, Tim Burton's got a weird Bride of Frankenstein fetish that we can talk about. Maybe when you cover that later this year.
Yes.
Plug.
Yes.
One of my favorite movies of all time. Plug. one of the first films where a woman says no to a man's advances. Plug, plug, plug. But like otherwise, like Lydia and Astrid are not that different from each other, except that they don't like each other.
Right. Right.
But they're still, they have a little more agency than they did previously in a way that feels organic for their character growth, which I think is really good. Like there's a lot of moments like that where I'm like, hey,
this is good.
But like,
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like other stuff where I'm like, why?
Right.
Why did this just happen to us?
Right. And it goes back to your thought, which I'm very much agree with, which is we're just trying to do all the things.
Yeah, we've had 36 years to think about this, and we're not telling ourselves no.
Right. Right.
And that's kind of also what I mean when I say it smacks of that desperation, right? Because I'm like, oh, who it did not necessarily leave me with the question of like, I wonder what Beetlejuice is gonna do next. But it like really left me with the question of like, well, who is Tim Burton to me? Which is such a weird way to leave a movie about one of your like favorite characters to enjoy.
Yeah. Wow. My question, I have another one for you. And it doesn't really have anything to do with Beetlejuice, but I want to know, do you believe in ghosts in the afterlife?
I think that I want to more than I do.
Okay.
I have not seen any weird business. I have definitely felt like spirits of like animals that have passed in my life, like after they've been around, but also that might just be because I'm sad.
Yeah. Right.
I would like to believe that that is a real thing. But I'm also one of those like annoying science people.
Sure.
And I don't really have any reason to believe it.
Yeah.
I'd like it to be true, but also I'd love it if the people who worked so hard and lived so hard could just rest. Like that sounds really nice to me. You know, whether that's a Great Beyond scenario or a just kind of hanging out situation, you know, maybe they're all in like the great rec room in the sky. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'd like to believe that if there is something, it is not an indentured servitude, you have to work in the waiting room in hell kind of deal.
Before you pass. Yeah.
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 What about you?
I do in some way. My dad passed away when I was 17, and I've gone to a medium before. And that was a very interesting experience because you go to comfort yourself and you can hear what you want to hear. But some things that were said were like so much on the nose where I'm like, how would you even know that?
I, on my 21st birthday, got my tarot cards read, and someone, the reader called me by the name that my auntie, who passed away when I was 14, she raised me basically, used to call me. And it freaked me out.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. So things like that. And also like signs I do believe in. So I kind of teeter on this like
I think
weird
I
resolution.
There's something after.
Right.
I don't know that I believe in ghosts. I think that's kind of the way that I would describe it.
Yeah.
Because like I mean, listen, don't get me wrong. If like the ghosts from A Muppet Christmas Carol just showed up in my apartment right now, this would be the best party ever. But like, you know, that I think is a bit much for me.
Yeah.
But I also, you know, sometimes I feel like I've looked in the same place 1,000 times for like the one ring I want to wear with an outfit. And then suddenly it is the place I swore I checked 1,000 times. And I have no reason to believe that something didn't put it there.
Right.
But that's about the extent of that energy that I have for that.
Yeah. Well, Kat, this has been delightful. Thank you so much for joining me. And I loved meeting you. I can't wait for you to join us next month, which our theme hasn't been revealed yet, but Kat will be back and we're excited for it. But Kat, please share with the listeners where they can find you on the interwebs, and we'll share everything in the show notes as well.
So if you want to follow me on social media, and that includes Instagram, Letterboxd, Twitch, Twitter, the whole 9 yards, I am Kat, Kat_Chinetti, Chinetti. If you like to hear the sound of my voice, which I hope you do, the season of We Should Do This Again Sometime with Kat and Mark is going to start releasing sometime later this very month. So come listen to us. This year we are doing the best blank movies ever made. So if you are a podcaster or a person with opinions and want to pitch us a best blank, please do. I'm very excited about what we have coming up later this year. Additionally, if you have any just general business chats, questions, I was described as the Tyler Durden of the DMs for a reason. I will fight you in a nice way. So get in those DMs. Additionally, if you want to read what I write, I'm the editor at Small at Nerd Caliber, but I also have my own site, catseesmovies.tumblr.com. And that's where you can find everything I've ever written, including reviews that I was not contracted to do. I think that's all of my plugs. And also, apropos of nothing, I know you guys are doing Bride of Frankenstein, and that has been announced at this point. Check out The Monster Show by David Scull. It's a wonderful history of monsters in cinema. And it starts with the invention of Dracula for the stage and goes all the way up to modern day. It's really good. The section about vampire movies in the 80s is my favorite, but all of it is really interesting.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kat. I love your spirit. It's amazing. Thank you guys for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, send us an email. If you saw Beetlejuice, we want to hear from you, and we'll catch you next time.
Movie Friends is produced by Seth Vargas and Michelle Rubenstein. Music by Anthony Pecora. If you like the show, please subscribe and give us a rating. It really helps us find new friends. Thanks!